Christine McKinley. The way that we met was Christine sent me an email, and it happened to be one of them that somehow got through my spam filter. But writing a business column, I get a lot of people asking me, well, do I have to pay taxes on money I make online? Well, duh, yes you do. Well, Christine sent me an email. I think you were introducing me to your newsletter or something. And I thought, well, here's a CPA, a certified financial planner. Here's someone who can actually give real tax advice rather than just make it up, which is what I did. So Christine and I started bantering back and forth, and we've actually developed a product. We've got a new ebook audio package. You'll hear more about that later. And that's one of those things you never know who you're going to end up being in business with. I mean, at last year's teleseminar, there were 3 or 4 people in the audience who pitched me ideas, and we ended up doing joint ventures. So always be looking for that interaction. You just never know. Mike Enos, the eBay experts. Everybody familiar with Mike? Big, handsome guy dressed like a funeral director there in the back row.
Careful, Tim.
It's in case I die while I'm up here. That's why he's doing this. Mike and I met about 3.5 years ago. I've been in business for going on 20 years, but just started dabbling in the online stuff about 3 years ago. And I got interested in it because I was doing research for a column I was writing for Entrepreneur Magazine. And I investigated eBay, I investigated information products, and decided, this looks like a great way to make some money, I'll give it a shot. So I wrote a little ebook on drop shipping on eBay. Didn't really have a clue what I was doing. Started selling these little ebooks, and I thought, this could be a pretty good business. Well, I noticed this other guy on eBay who was selling a how-to book. And so I shot him an email and said, hey, I've got this book that I've written. If you'll promote it to your list, I'll give you 50%. And that's how Mike Enos became my very first affiliate. Now I've got about 8,000 affiliates. He's number 1.
Thanks,
and he's proud of that.
Number 1 too, Tim.
Number 1 in your heart, man. But over the years, Mike and I have made tens of thousands of dollars together, and it was just one of those things where if I hadn't taken the initiative to just send him that email, he would have missed out knowing me, and his life would be empty. At least he'd have a nice suit. Who else is here this weekend? Paul Finley is actually going to come up and do something non-political. Paul is probably the best marketing guy I know. Paul, I call him my bird dog. If I want anything, I just kick him off the porch and he goes and gets it. That's an Alabama reference. But he knows how to market. For example, when I decided I wanted to take a year off from business and do this book and everything, we were figuring out ways to promote the book. And I said, we know a radio show would be a really cool thing to have. Well, next day Paul Finley comes in and goes, hey, got you a radio show. Did I want a radio show? But he's a great marketer, and he works with businesses of all kinds and all sizes, helping them market. And as entrepreneurs, the number 1 thing you are going to have to be concerned with is marketing. Okay, when people ask me what is the number 1 aspect of business that I need to be really good at, it is marketing. Okay? You can have the absolute best product in the world, but if you don't know how to market it, you're not going to sell a single thing. On the other side, you could have a lousy product, but if you're a great marketer, you'll sell billions. You ever heard of a little company called Microsoft? Now you can see why they don't invite me to speak at Microsoft. Paul's going to talk about that. Coming up this afternoon, Dan Miller is going to be here. Who's familiar with Dan? A lot of you are probably on Dan's list. Dan is a really good friend of mine. He is the author of the book 48 Days to the Work You Love. Got a new book coming out in January called No More Mondays. I just got the galley copy. It's excellent. He is going to be here this afternoon talking about how to put together a book, an actual book, get it printed, published, that sort of thing. Dan is a master at this, and Dan is one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. And that's one thing about all of these people that are here, except maybe Scott. They all have the heart of a teacher. Okay, everyone who's here this weekend, it has a genuine concern for you. Okay. They're here to help you start businesses and share their expertise with you. Okay? All of them are good at that. Then we're going to have Chuck Bowen. Who's familiar with Chuck? A lot of people know Chuck. Chuck is, I call him the coach's coach. Chuck is a personal coach, a financial coach. He's one of Dave Ramsey's top coaches. But he also teaches other people how to start coaching businesses. he did about $400,000 last year in coaching. So he's the guy to teach you how to do that. Anybody interested in coaching in here? A lot of folks are. It's a great market now. Other things, let me just kind of go down the laundry list. We're going to have a buffet lunch today. This is a chance for you to interact with each other, interact with the speakers, and that's another thing. Don't be shy about coming up to me or coming up to any of these other guys. Okay? Don't be shy. Don't let the nice jacket fool you. Actually, Mike said, I like the jackets with the high lapels. And I said, yeah, that's how they made them 10 years ago when I bought this. But, have lunch with us. Tonight we're going to have a dinner. You'll get to meet my wonderful wife, Melissa. You'll get to meet Paul's wife. You'll get to meet Dave Purvis, who's my tech guy. But if you've got a question, if you want to talk, come on up. Don't pitch us in the bathroom, though. I've had that happen. Been in a stall in the bathroom and somebody, Mr. Knox?
What was her name?
That's Scott. It was that lady from the street in Seattle. But the truth is, again, we're just like you. Let me tell you a quick story, about big credentials and all this. And some of you may have heard this before. When you're an entrepreneur, you've got to have an ego. You've got to be confident. But you don't want to be over egotistical, right? Well, I've been doing this a long time and very successful. And my little girl, Sierra, who's 11 now and this tall, back when she was in the first grade, came up and said, Daddy, they're having career day at school. You know what career day is? It's like show and tell, but you bring your parent, right? And she said, so will you come speak at career day? And I'm all puffed up and proud. And I'm like, well, sure. I'd love to come talk to a bunch of kindergartners about what I do. And she said, well, what do you do? Like her mother, she had no clue what I do. I said, well, I'm an entrepreneur. She said, well, what is that? I said, well, I start and run businesses. So career day came, I go to school, Sierra goes up to introduce me, and she goes, this is my daddy. I don't know what he does, but he's an entrepreneur. It's the smell of success. So